The UK inflation has surprised again, now up 10.1%. Are there any concerns you have in relation to that happening in Australia? Are there any similarities?
Well, it does show you what is happening elsewhere, and we are lagging events overseas when it comes to inflation. But the UK and Europe more generally has these particular problems related to energy, gas, electricity prices. 10.1% is the highest rate of inflation there since the early 1980s. It was higher than expected, but the Bank of England just recently forecast it will get up to 13%. And you can see why when you look at the detail. Utilities and housing costs have increased by 20% in the last year in the UK, which is a massive cost of living squeeze. And the other big mover, which of course is a problem, is food and non-alcoholic beverages up 12%. So these are two essentials of life which are really moving, and you can understand why there's so much pressure in that community over there when it comes to cost of living and finances.
And finally, what's your view of this safeguard mechanism review? It's a very complex area of policy, obviously, dealing with 215 of the heaviest emitters, part of the government's emission reduction plan. But what's your take on what you've seen so far from the government on that?
Well, it's early days and it's now open for discussion. And I think the commitment to continuing the safeguard mechanism in some form is important. I think it needs to be transparent, the process, not just the review process, but obviously the safeguard mechanism itself. And we've got to get a right sense of balance here. We can't have corporate welfare, but at the same time, we can't be driving industries into the ground that have a long-term future. I think the key missing piece in the discussion so far is the broader industry policy and industry ambitions from the government. They haven't really articulated that since the previous government's modern manufacturing strategy. So I think my key issue is making sure that whatever they do with this safeguard mechanism and their broader emissions targets and environmental policies, that it's heavily linked into what they're doing with their industry policy, which I'm sure it will be. But of course, we can't always assume that governments make sure all their departments are talking to each other.
Good call. Warren Hogan, great to see you as always. Thanks.